Good evening and welcome to this edition of KTN Prime. It's the 7th of June 2013. Great to have your company this evening. My name is Betty Kialo. Let's first have the highlights.
The men and women that I now present to Kenyans are professionals with a proven track record and who have greatly contributed to the development of this country.
Who's in? New faces dominate Principal Secretary's lineup.
We will resist it, we'll be united, and we will not be intimidated by anybody.
Battle of the Houses. Will the President intervene?
Hizi chuma kwa kilo na inauzwa katikati wa 30 na 40.
Scrap metals of death. Who's selling and who's buying?
Tulipanda mahindi vile mbolea. Ndio hii sasa sien hakuna.
Cry from the north. Farmers alarmed of a fertilizer shortage. Good evening and welcome. President Uhuru Kenyatta has nominated 26 principal secretaries in a lineup that has seen only 3 serving permanent secretaries make the mark. The 26 names will now be forwarded to Parliament for vetting. Let us now take a look at the full list of nominees. Join me here at the Super Wall. Let us have the first board. There we go. Familiar names there. Mutea Iringo has been nominated as the PS Interior Ministry. You will recall that he has been the minister, the permanent secretary rather, in the Ministry of Internal Security. The other here, Engineer Joseph Njoroge, PS Energy and Petroleum. He has been the CEO of Kenya Power. Moving on, Richard Lesiampe, PS Environment and Natural Resources. You know he is the CEO of the Kenyatta National Hospital. Mariamu El Mawi has been nominated as the PS of Land. Moving on, these nominees have been nominated for the PS of Industrialization and Enterprise, Coordination, Energy and Petroleum again. Let's move on to the next board. There we go. James Teko Lopeotom has been nominated as the principal secretary rather in the water docket. Engineer John K. Mosonik has been nominated as the principal secretary in the docket of infrastructure. Moving on, John Conchella, Ali Nur Ishmael and Dr. Belio Kipsang have also been nominated in that particular list for those particular dockets. Let's now move on to the next board. Dr. Kamau Dhuge, PS Treasury, and also Nduva Muli has been nominated as the Principal Secretary in the docket of Transport. Moving on, Dr. Khadija Kasechom, PS Livestock, Cicely Karaoke, PS Agriculture, Professor Misheni Mteba, PS Fisheries. Moving on to the next board. Ambassador Monica K. Juma has been nominated as a Principal Secretary in the Defense docket. Dr. Ibrahim M. Mohammed has been nominated in the Commerce and Tourism docket. Moving on, Professor Fred Sigor has been nominated in the Health docket. Joseph Tiampati, PS Information and Communication. Ambassador Richard Ekai Titus, PS Mining. And finally, Patrick Omutea has been nominated as a Principal Secretary in the Sports, Culture and Arts docket. Monamaka Amani Mabruki has been nominated for the East African Community. And finally, Engineer Peter Omagiti has been nominated as a Principal Secretary in the docket of Planning. And of course, this name will be tabled in Parliament for approval. As the news of the nomination sunk in, it has emerged that the Permanent Secretary for Internal Security, Mutea Iringo, has his transport colleague, Engineer Karanja Kibisho, have been nominated despite having not been shortlisted by the Public Service Commission when they applied for those particular positions. Well, Patrick Amimo delves deeper into the list that also saw 4 corporate heads nominated.
Finally, the head of state has unveiled the list of principal secretaries 4 days after the High Court dismissed a petition that sought to stop their appointments. The Public Service Commission had mid-last month presented to the President a list of 66 people to choose from for the positions of principal secretaries. The President has now chosen 26 nominees for the positions. Out of these, 5 are women.
The men and women that I now present to Kenyans are professionals with a proven track record and who have have greatly contributed to the development of this country.
The PS for Internal Security, Mutea Iringo, is a surprise inclusion in the list. He was not among the 155 candidates that were shortlisted in April by the Public Service Commission for interviews despite having applied for the position. Transport PS Engineer Karanja Kibisho has also been nominated Principal Secretary Foreign Affairs. He too applied for the job through the Public Service Commission but was not shortlisted. Permanent Secretary for Fisheries Development Professor Japheth Mishenin Tiba is set to retain his docket, while Dr. Kamau Thuge, who is serving as the Economic Secretary at Treasury, has been nominated Principal Secretary for Treasury. Ambassador Monica Kathina Juma has been nominated Principal Secretary for Defense. Should the National Assembly okay her, she will join Ambassador Rachel Omamo, who was appointed Cabinet Secretary for Defense, making the docket all-female-led ministry. 4 corporate heads have been nominated Principal Secretaries. Among them is the Managing Director for Kenya Power, Engineer Joseph Njoroge, who has been nominated to the Energy and Petroleum docket. The Chief Executive Officer for Kenyatta National Hospital, Richard Yampe, is nominated for Environment and Natural Resources docket. Kenya Railways Managing Director Nduva Muli is set to take over transport. The Managing Director for the Tea Board of Kenya, Cicely Kariuki, is the Principal Secretary nominee for Agriculture.
We hope that the process of vetting by the National Assembly will be speedy in order to ensure that the business of government continues in a smooth manner.
Though the President appears to have done a delicate balancing act to ensure the nominees reflect the regional and ethnic diversity of Kenya, it would appear the 1/3 gender rule was tricky. Had this rule been followed to the letter, at least 8 nominees out of the 26 would have been of the female gender. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
The Principal Secretary nominees will be vetted by the National Assembly that is increasingly becoming isolated and unpopular on its staff wars. The Senate, Governors' Council and the Commission on Implementation of the Constitution have faulted the MP's latest supremacy outrage on the Senate. And as Samogina reports, they now want the division of revenue bill approved by the National Assembly rejected for disregarding the Senate's inputs.
The power tussle in the bicameral parliament now goes to the doorsteps of the president. The Senate has asked President Uhuru Kenyatta to reject the division of revenue bill approved by the National Assembly Thursday that slashed the county government's budget by 48 billion shillings. The Senate faulted the National Assembly's annulling of its amendments to the bill, saying it undermines the Constitution.
So if the president assents to that bill, it is going to be unconstitutional. And that's not very helpful, considering that this is a bill about public finances.
To thaw the frosty relations between the two houses, the Senate wants a mediation committee formed to strike a balance on decisions by the two houses. The acrimony that now threatens to scuttle devolution funding has dropped in the Transitional Authority.
Unless sobriety and good order prevails on this matter, it is likely that the constitutional confrontation between the two houses of parliament could affect the rollout of the functions of government and incidentally affect the delivery of services to the people of Kenya.
The two houses have a mandate to discuss it and eventually agree on it, as is provided by the Constitution.
The division of revenue bill seeks to determine revenue allocation between the central and county governments. While the Senate approved 248 billion shillings for counties, the National Assembly Thursday cut back the figure to 210 billion shillings, stating that the Senate lacked jurisdiction over the bill.
We will not be intimidated by anybody. Our loyalty is to the people of Kenya. Our duty is to defend the Constitution and especially to ensure that our devolution framework works, and we are ready to pay whatever price that needs to be paid for that purpose to be achieved.
Otherwise, I see no other reason for refusing to allocate enough resources at 238 billion.
And now we are getting very worried because we have less than a month to deliver the budgets.
The Senate has downplayed the nasty supremacy battle ensuing in Parliament. Instead, the Senate has castigated the National Assembly for engaging in power games with virtually all constitutional institutions at the expense of governance affairs.
We are concerned about is a trend, a dangerous trend of trying to demean the Senate or trying to to use the Senate as a scapegoat of whatever challenges other institutions or people are having in their discharge of their functions.
The Supremacy War's ripple effect is a bill in the National Assembly seeking to disband the Senate, whose primary mandate is to defend devolution. Samugina, KTN, Nairobi.
And that story on the unending wars leads us to a big question tonight, and we ask, do you think the National Assembly is abusing its legislative powers? Well, send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040, and we'll sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the end of this live news bulletin. Well, moving on to the Mau Mau compensation, and the mention of £20 million seems to have sent Kenyan and British lawyers scrambling to file fresh cases against the British government with the hope of success. However, there is a faction of the Mau Mau war veterans in Nyeri who are not among the 5,228 but are demanding more than 20 million offered, adding that the government should not accept the compensation until their demands are met. KTN's Catherine Omwanto has these details.
A group calling itself the Mau Mau War Veteran Association in Nyeri want the compensation of 5,200 victims of torture halted. All these elderly men and women were part of one group formed in 2003. However, over time, they claimed that they were sidelined by the Mau Mau War Veteran Association led by Gitwa Kahengeri. That aside, they too want to be compensated, but their price is a little higher than what the British government is offering.
Tupatio milioni 200,000 ama 28 milioni kwa watoto wale hawakusoma.
This group was not part of the faction that sued the British government. Besides, the British government will not compensate everyone who claims to have been tortured, but only those certified to have suffered inhumane acts by the colonial government, and so far that only accounts for 5,200 war veterans.
Nikiingia huko nilikuwa kijana wa miaka 16. Sasa sisi tukinyanyaswa namna hii tutakuwa nini? Afadhali kuuawa.
The British government recognizes that Kenyans were subject to torture and other forms of ill treatment at the hands of the colonial administration.
As it stands, there are 4 other law firms claiming to represent war veterans in 2 fresh cases against the British government. British law firm Tandem Law and Cecil Miller and Advocates have filed a case with the British High Court against the Commonwealth government. They claim to over 8,000 Mau Mau war veterans on their books. And then there's the British law firm GT, along with Rabala and Company Advocates, who are to file a case in the British High Court this week. They claim to represent another 700 plus war veterans. How successful these cases will be is anyone's guess. However, it would seem that allowing a second case and even a third case against its government, Her Majesty's Court of Justice would be opening a legal Pandora's box. Catherine Omwanto, KTN.
Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga jetted back into the country from South Africa this evening to a treatment similar to what he experienced before he left. Although his arrival this evening was not as dramatic as that of Monday, Raila still seemed agitated over his inability to access the VIP lounge again on claims that the keys to the lounge was missing. Now, he, however, insisted that he is not bothered by the mistreatment and is still waiting for a formal apology from the government following the ill treatment he received at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Monday.
Samaki ukichukua ukaangusha ndani ya maji ujaadhibu samaki. Umeadhibu samaki kweli? Ukichukua Raila umeweka kwa raia umemwadhibu? Raila ni raia, sio? Sio?
To health matters now, the National Nurses Association of Kenya wants the government to hire more health workers and allocate more funds to the health sector as it rolls out free maternity health services. While welcoming the move, the union has expressed concern that without more nurses and birth attendants, free maternity services would only serve to exert even more pressure on the already overstretched public health facilities.
In Kenya, we have a critical shortage of up to 80% of skilled birth attendants. Currently, we have 38,645 licensed nurses against a population of over 40 million Kenyans. We need at least 172 nurses, and this one gives only 22% of that number. We are urging the government to give Kenyans what is required. It is not the free maternity that will prevent maternal death. It is having adequate, skilled health workers. It is having midwives. It is having nurses. And if we have these, we can deliver these mothers at bus stop, at their homes, wherever they are. That is what is required urgently.
Unscrupulous scrap metal dealers continue to make a kill buying and selling metal stolen from structures along Kenyan roads. Mombasa and the Thika superhighways have bore the brunt of the vandalism, with road rails, reflectors and lampposts having been stripped off. And as Najma Ismail reports, despite the danger posed to road users by the actions of these vandals, the incidents continue unabated, with no signs of ending soon.
Highway vandalism is an issue that has been giving the Kenya National Highways authorities sleepless nights. And they say the high demand for scrap metal is to blame for it. The Thika superhighway has so far lost at least 50 million shillings in vandalized structures, while the Mombasa highway has incurred a loss of at least 10 million shillings.
What they're stealing was about 20% of the contract sum. So if you take 27 billion, take 20%, you're talking about 5.4 billion. So you can see 5.4 billion is just going to unscrupulous dealers.
You can never catch the vandals in the act, but area residents seem to know exactly when the highway vandalism takes place, and they're not afraid to speak up about it.
Hizi machuma zinangolewa usiku wakati kuna giza na waizi wale wa kupima ulodha hizi za scrap.
Wanajifanya ni kama watu chokora hivi, kuja hivi wanachukua hizo chuma kisha wanapeleka kwa hizo scraps.
However, scrap metal dealers have denied buying any metal that comes from the roads as a result of vandalism. We did a spot check at various scrap metal dealers.
Chuma pamoja na waya zina recycling. Sasa ndo tunaona tusaidia masla kwa bei tofauti kwa sababu chuma ina bei tofauti, plastic ina bei tofauti.
Sasa sijui mahali wanapelekaga juu, hata mimi naonaga kwa TV watu wamebomoa lakini sijai kuona mahali wanauza.
Hizo vitu za baro naomba kwa public mzima. Ule mtu anataka vitu za baro kwa scrap kama hii hata zibae. Mtu asijidanganya hata vitu za baro kwa scrap yetu ama kwa business kama hii kwa sababu sisi tutajaribia.
But this man tells a different story.
Watu wasikirebo wanausia watu wale wanatekeleza chuma. Sasa wanapeleka huko.
Wanapenda hizo barabara?
Eh?
Wanapenda hizo barabara watu straight?
Bora ilikuwa na chuma.
So what measures has the authority put in place to try and curb this booming underground business?
The authority is working on new innovation, ways of coming up with new material that is non-metallic, and we have a project, a pilot project, based on fiber-reinforced polymers or plastics.
Numerous road accidents have occurred on the superhighways, and many people have lost their lives due to vandals cutting the rails, placking the reflectors, and even pulling down street lights. The Highway Authority is now calling on you to help end this vice and practice community policing to save our roads. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
Uncertainty surrounding distribution of subsidized calcium ammonium nitrate fertilizer by the National Cereals and Produce Board is threatening crop production in the country. A spot check done by KTN in the North Rift region revealed how the delays in supplying the farm input has stunted growth of maize crop in the region. And as KTN's Masi Kandia reports, the situation may be worsened by the financial woes facing the National Cereals and Produce Board.
This is the look of most farms within the North Rift region. James Kimani, a farmer, says he wants to do something about it, but he can't. He is among many farmers in the region who on a daily basis visit the National Cereals and Produce Board, hoping that there will be distribution of subsidized calcium ammonium nitrate CAN fertilizer, but to no avail.
Inakaa ni kama yenye mtaka kuharibika. Seti imeharibika. Kwa mvua ikisanyesha itapata itakuja kuamka mzuri.
Kila siku JCN jafika, transport na sisi kwa barabara, mahindi iko mbaya. Sasa tujui serikali inaelekea wapi? Because ukiona hasa sisi ni wakulima tunapanda mahindi. Tulipanda mahindi bila mbolea. Ndio hii sasa CN hakuna. Hii ni kusema nini? Wananchi watakufa na njaa.
Farmers in the area anticipating the worst, some expressing fears of low quality and quantity of maize produce this year.
Sita mwaka huu hata hawezi kosa nini kwa eka moja ataweza kwa kunia 5.
Nimekuja kwa muda tumekuwa tukiambia tungojee baada ichaingia, na unajua vile mvua haijakuwa vizuri saa hizi inatakana sasa maji ikidrop kama jana imetoka kidogo tungekuwa tunamwagilia saa hizi kwa shamba, kwa sababu ikikosa CN hiyo mazao itakuwa. Na tukienda kwa wale wanauza huko unaona wanauza bei ya juu sana. Sasa tulikuwa tuna prefer hii ya serikali ya subsidize, alafu tujaribu kuweka kwa mashamba ndio at least mazao ikue. Bure hatuta harvest mzuri na tutakuwa tu bado na shida.
Maize crop should be top-dressed at knee-height stage, that is about 45 days after planting, to boost growth and eventual yield. However, the constant delay of fertilizers makes this requirement unattainable for many farmers. However, North Rift NCPB on its part has appealed to farmers to continue being patient, saying the Ministry of Agriculture was doing all it can to ensure fertilizer is available to farmers.
What I would want to tell the farmers is that to be patient a bit. The ministry is at its 11th hour of clearing the fertilizer from Mombasa.
So, until then, these farmers walk home to their farms empty-handed. Marcy Kandia, KTN, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County.
Despite widespread efforts to curb poaching, the vice is still rampant as the poachers and their associates make a killing from the illegal trade. On average, about 3 elephants are killed daily in Kenya, and this trend is worrying environmentalists who are keen on preserving Kenya's pride and heritage. A group of conservationists who have walked for close to 800 kilometers to raise awareness have vowed to continue walking till their voices are heard, as KTN's Carol Derry reports.
These demonstrators took the fight against poaching a notch higher when they marched along the Marsabit-Isiolo highway. About 1,500 elephants have been killed in the last 3 years, and one Jim Nyamo, a conservationist, has so far walked for about 800 kilometers to raise awareness over these grave statistics.
My work here is to engage the local people, conservancies, KWS, police, everybody.
The loophole is in the legal framework, as most of those arraigned for poaching are either fined lightly or get away with it altogether.
People have used the advantage for many years now of a very weak law like wildlife law. What we have now is not strong enough to stop people from doing this.
Tukishika mmoja yao hakuna kusamewa. Kupeleka mpaka jail mpaka hata egg. Wapeleke egg.
David Letoye has just arrived from London in time to participate in this awareness exercise. He is the winner of the Whitley Award for his work in conserving the Gravis zebra.
Because of the problems and where I was brought up, I got a lot of interest on wildlife conservation, particularly on the problems that are facing my community in Samburu, and also the problems facing the wildlife, like for example the poaching on elephants and the land degradation, which is really a big issue on Gravis zebra conservation.
To end this issue of poaching is to step up the penalties.
There is need for the sustenance of the ecosystem as well. Elephants consume about 200 liters of water daily, and our drying rivers are a cause for alarm. On average, 3 elephants are killed daily by poachers, and these grim statistics spell doom for wildlife conservation, and urgent intervention is needed. Carol Derry for KTN at Archer's Post in Samburu.
The struggle continues. A day after the Mau Mau War veterans won compensation against the British government, the Land Commission is reflecting on the thorny question of community land. Land was at the center of the freedom struggle, but even the new constitution does not seem to have resolved many of these challenges facing communities across the country. Or has it? Well, KTN's Wilkisa Nyabwa now with a reality check.
The names and the countries that we have are diverse.
Stakeholders trading opinions on community land laws. The promulgation of a new constitution ushered in a period where customary law is acknowledged by the constitution. In the context of customary community land laws, this means that the constitution has at last recognized the community as a legitimate landholder. This development is reason for celebration among members of this community in Mpakasi, Kitengela. Residents show us a parcel of land which stretches out as far as the eye can see. The Maasai community here says this plot falls under community land. For years, communities have fought to hold on to their community land with little to stake their claim, save for stories handed down from generation to generation. The problem, they say, is that they often do not hold title deeds to these parcels of land. While the community started out with 10,000 acres, today it can only stake its claim to just under 8,000 acres. The rest is at the center of a tussle for ownership. For years, residents have fought to regain ownership of the land, appointing themselves guardians against would-be land grabbers.
Karibu kila wiki tunaifukuza watu hapa brokers ambaye alikuwa anatoka ardhi house. Akisema kwamba mimi niko na title, mimi nina shamba hapa.
The system that was previously in place has been blamed for fostering the infringement of land rights, creating an environment where it was easy to grab land set aside as community land. The National Land Commission now providing an avenue for redress.
La muhimu la kutekeleza hii sheria ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba jamii yapewa nafasi ya kutambulika ya kwamba ardhi zile wamekalia wametumia ni mali yao kwanza. Na yoyote yule anataka kuhusisha lazima wahusishe hiyo jamii.
Many valuable resources have been discovered on land held by communities. Oil in Turkana, wildlife in Kajiado and coal in Kitui. These developments, the long-standing disputes and the recognition of customary land laws now require the country to enact laws on the administration and management of community land by 2015. And this is why land experts in Kenya and from across the world are gathered here to trade views over just what works when it comes to community land laws. Wilkisa Nyabwa, KTN in Nairobi.
Good evening and welcome to Business. My name is Boni Tunya. National Bank shareholders have endorsed the bank's ambitious transformation program and approved plans to raise additional capital through a rights issue to finance expansion and growth. The shareholders also approved an increase in the authorized share capital of the bank from 3 billion shillings to 7 billion shillings through a creation of 800 million new shares. Now, the shareholders' resolution will add significant traction to the bank's 5-year growth strategy, seeking to grow its turnover from the current 8 billion shillings to 31 billion shillings by 2017. It will also see the bank open 30 new branches across the country during the period. Flavored milk is poised to drive growth in the regional dairy market for the next 3 years as more consumers show an increased preference due to changing nutritional taste and growth in consumer incomes. This comes as Brookside Dairy and Standard Group sign a deal that will facilitate the biennial Brookside Livestock Show and Sales to be held from the 26th to 28th of June 2013.
The biannual show is expected to help dairy farmers, especially small-scale dairy farmers, to learn cheap and cost-effective ways that will help them maximize production of high-quality milk. The show will also enable farmers to interact with industry experts.
For us, it's about raising standards, about raising standards, the standards of dairy farming in this country. We are aware that the Breeders' Show allows the farmers to show off what they have that is good, but I think it also forces them to raise the standards every single year. And by us getting involved and giving them the publicity that is required, I think it becomes a lot easier for Brookside to set the benchmarks as they move forward.
It's important that the country, the region recognize that this is the premier show of livestock. In this region alone, we don't have any other show of its kind like this.
But even as Brookside promotes increased dairy farming in the country, a report released by packaging firm Tetra Pak says that flavored milk is gaining grounds among consumers. The report adds that this will drive growth in the regional dairy market for the next 3 years. The trend the report indicates has been boosted by a combination of factors, including growth in consumer incomes. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
Local IT firm 7 Seas Technologies has opened up its headquarters in Nairobi as it sets to begin its quest for expansion across the globe. The 4-story headquarters houses a data center, knowledge transfer center, as well as offices for the staff and management of 7 Seas. The move gives 7 Seas capacity to integrate data center and network operating centers, providing comprehensive storage and redundancy services for clients. Now, the data center is scalable, meaning that the firm can deploy to any market quickly and offer services such as cloud computing.
So through this dashboard we have to see the sales. So you can know for my
This day belongs to everybody who has assisted me to be where I am today. I tell you a story. When I started this business, I never had a grand plan. There was no balance sheet. There was no business plan. I just felt I need to do something different.
The next one is an interesting one. A revolutionary insurance product could be the answer to persistent worry that parents have over the safety of their children. Whether at home or at school, ChildGuard, a product of the AVLC Capital Limited, will provide 24-hour emergency ambulance services from the Red Cross and air evacuation by the flying doctors, all at a cost of 2,850 shillings annually. The insurance will also cover medical costs for the first 48 hours to allow parents time to free up funds or let other insurance cover to kick in so that there is no delay in getting medical attention. Now, this could be a godsend for parents as it eliminates the needless deaths on the road and at home brought about by delay in accessing medical services.
ChildGuard was developed out of desire to offer a solution for parenthood in relation to the kids, to the children. So, and we discovered, if you look for the past 1 year, there have been a lot of incidents involving kids who have traveled at home, a kid choked, and because there was not that immediate response, the kid died. We have combined road rescue plus air rescue, and we have looked for strong partners who can offer solutions for both air and road evacuation. The beauty of the product is the child is entitled for evacuation 24 hours.
Well, let's now take a look at what's happening on KTN Sports today. I am Nicholas Mudimba. The 5th round of the KCB Mobi Banking in Nakuru has seen over 55 drivers given the green light to participate tomorrow. Many drivers are wary of the unknown due to the current unpredictable weather in the region and have to gamble which type of tires they're going to use. Alistair Kavanagh is also back at the grueling event for the first time this season, making the event even more competitive. Series leader Balib Chaga is leaving nothing to chance, but he'll be the man to beat given the pressure he'll be under on top of the table. Scrutineering of the participating cars was done at Lisiolo Silo grounds, and all the listed cars passed the required minimum requirements.
Especially safety, we do not compromise unless they make some rectifications in good time. They would not be allowed to compete.
It's raining. You find that in Geshea farm there is a lot of wetness. Parts of Mogotio, they are quite wet, and a lot of mud splashes, and you can get stuck there.
Flat out racing. It's fast and twisty.
Sekafa Secretariat today said it will not replace Tusker, who pulled out from this year's Kagame Sekafa Cup in Sudan. Secretary General Nicholas Musonye says the 12 teams left in the competition constitutes a quorum for such a tournament. He also clarified that Simba has not pulled out of the competition that kicks off on the 18th of June.
What Simba and the Young have done, they have even sent their names of the players to go. So our people in Khartoum are working on their tickets. Officially, it is only Tusker that have said they are not going to participate. And we have said we will not stop our competition because of Tusker. We are going to proceed, and we are not going to force them to participate in our competition. We are not worried about that. I can understand the genuineness of some teams in pulling out. Others, I see politics in it. And I don't care. I have said, those ones who want to go to Sudan, let them go. Those ones who don't want to go, let them stay away. And they should not talk about it.
Olympics partner Procter & Gamble has ensured over 200,000 children have had access to sports facilities and equipment in its partnership with the National Olympics Committee of Kenya. 150 public schools have so far benefited from the assorted kits, and Machakos School for the Deaf, who were the runners-up in the National Special Sports Game, was the top today, when the company visited to take stock of the progress in sports. Procter & Gamble is undertaking the program under its legacy program developed in the lead-up to the London Olympics. Another program, primary school teachers were also sensitized to raise awareness on the importance of sports in development among the youth.